Letitia James, lawyers up, attempts to dismiss serial mortgage issues as mistakes and errors. This is after she was doing an interview where she said this whole thing was made up. They're coming after her. This none of this stuff is true. To now, oh, I was play pimping. I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. This was all just mistakes and errors. Um, which with everyone that knows that who's ever bought a house, purchased a house, got a mortgage, you know that you double check, you triple check that form, because if it's any type of thing that's wrong on it, you can get prosecuted for it. You can get in real big trouble for any type of errors on it. And then you have a lawyers look at the paperwork to make sure that everything is correct and you're not messing up on anything. And also you know, you also have what is it called, escrow and all that stuff. So you have plenty of opportunities to check for errors, and you are a lawyer at that. You're a lawyer and you made a mistake on a mortgage paper, errors on mortgage paper. You called your father your husband, and you just happen to benefit for that from that. You did it twice. Two times you created this, you made the same mistake. Are you serious? Like, she's lying. We all know she's lying. She's just caught. So we're gonna talk about it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from PJ Media, and they report that Letitia James has acknowledged that she is in legal hot water by hiring big gun criminal defense attorney Abby David Lowell. If that name sounds familiar, it's because Lowell was one of Hunter Biden's lawyers during his special counsel probe, which resulted in gun and tax charges for the then first son. To be precise, James herself didn't hire Lowell, her office did. The attorney's, quote, the attorney's general's office said that Lowell was hired by the attorney's general's office and not retained personally by James, reports the Times Union. Yes, that means taxpayers are footing her legal bills. Neat trick. How could this be legal? You get in some personal trouble, and just because you're attorney general, this is personal stuff. This is not anything to do with your attorney general duties, but the taxpayers have to pay for it. New York, if I was a New Yorker, I'll be outraged by this. This ain't right. Lowell sent a 6-page letter to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi on Thursday. His missive was a rebuttal to the criminal referral previously sent to Bondi by Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pope. Lowell's letter was a posturing attempt to wave away the numerous inconsistencies in James's real estate dealings over the past 40 plus years. Oddly, all of these innocent mistakes occurred in the direction of more favorable terms for Tish and her family member partners. Well, coincidence. That's what I was just alluding to. How she just happened to make mistakes that she benefited from. It helped her get a lower mortgage by saying that she was she was a resident of Virginia. It helped her, interest rates and stuff like that. Helped her secure lower interest rates. It helped her also because she lied twice about, again, being married to her father. This is crazy. But the first of these happy accidents in James's favor was her claim of a 2023 specific power of attorney that she intended to make a Virginia home her primary residence while she was firing up her lawfare trial against Trump in her role as New York Attorney General. And mind you, you can't be Attorney General and be of New York and your primary residence be in Virginia. Most higher ups in most states, most states, most counties, most jurisdictions, when you're in these high offices, you have to reside in the location that you are working in. But Lowell explained that kind of old Aunt Tish was simply helping. Lowell explained that kindly old Aunt Tish was simply helping her niece purchase the home as the younger woman's residence and had made that clear in earlier emails to the mortgage broker. So why did it say it was her? But it says in 2023, Miss James assisted her niece, Shamise Thompson Hairston, who needed financial support with the down payment to purchase a home in Norfolk, Virginia. The mortgage application required only one individual to live at the property. Director Polt cherry-picked in August 17, 2023, power of attorney that mistakenly stated the property to be Miss James's principal residence, and at the same time absolutely ignored her very clear in all caps statement 2 weeks earlier to the mortgage loan broker that this property will not be my primary residence. It will be Shanice's primary residence, Exhibit A. The broker understood this and that Miss James was not a Virginia resident and replied, Section 4 indicates that the property will be occupied as a primary residence for Shanice. Your declaration is marked as non-occupying co-borrower. That's nice. That such a conversion occurred offline 2 weeks prior to the closing. How strange that the error later appeared on the POA. It's also odd that such a Perninsky real estate expert lawyer as Miss James, who has gone to such great legal lengths to ensure others dot their I's and cross their T's herself, neglected to at least make a handwritten correction to the document before signing. Did this innocent mistake affect the financial mortgage terms in any way? That's the sort of thing an investigation could clear up. This little funny memes here of people looking at things, investigating. It's pretty funny. So the next issue Lowell takes on in his letter is James's multi-family residence in Brooklyn. The building's official certificate of occupancy, issued in 2001, just 2 weeks before James closed on the property, described it as a 5-unit dwelling. But on every single financing document on record, James listed as a 4-unit, dropping it out of the commercial property classification and gaining eligibility for far less expensive loan, insurance, and banking fees. They said Director Pope points to a 24-year-old certificate of occupancy listing the property as having 5 units. Despite that, the property has functioned as a 4-unit residence for the past 24 years since Ms. James bought it. In fact, a document he is well aware of, the August 23rd, 2011 Home Affordable Modification Program application, confirms it as being a 4-unit property. Worse yet, Director Pope ignores altogether the other New York City records that list the Brooklyn property as a 4-year property, including the NYC Department of Finance property record, listing the Brooklyn property building class as C3 for families for tax purposes. Exhibit B, in addition, the NYC Department of Housing, Preservation, and Development lists the Brooklyn property as having 4 A units and 0 B units, demonstrating again that Miss James' Brooklyn residence has been used as a 4-unit residence since 2001. Exhibit C. In other words, there is a discrepancy between NYC departments regarding official documentation of the number of dwellings within the building. As Lowe himself documents, James ran with the more advantageous narrative. The building has 4 units, of course, rather than the information the Department of Building has on file, which description is the truth. James is in violation of one sort of another. Quote, occupying a building in a manner inconsistent with its certificate of occupancy is a direct violation of New York building codes, notes fraud investigator Sam Antar. He said, Lowell wants us to believe James has been innocently living in a 4-unit building for 24 years. But if that's true, why did she never file for an amendment certificate of occupancy? Again, she's a lawyer, so she knows she's supposed to do these things, right? She specializes in this type of fraud, right? But the answer is simple. Changing the designation would require inspections, compliance with current codes, and substantial documentation. It was far more convenient to maintain the fiction of a 4-unit building while benefiting from the legal existence of a 5th unit. Once again, an investigation would clear this matter up, and we could all go on with our lives. Surely and honest as the day is long, AG will want that to happen as soon as possible. Finally, Lowell takes on that awkward mortgage paperwork that states in two different places that Tish and her father, Robert James, were actually married. Um, in 1983, Miss James's father, Robert James, sought to buy a home for his family in the Jamaica neighborhood of Queens, New York. He asked his daughter, then a few years out of school, to help by allowing him to add her name to the mortgage application. Mr. James filled out the mortgage material wherein he described their relationship as being spouses and purchased the home without his daughter's involvement. Yet, in a predictable pattern here, Director Polk cites a mistaken May 20, 1983 document Mr. James filled out to cast his baseless allegation, while again ignoring the other supporting documentation, one on the same exact date that correctly describes Miss James as being his daughter. The actual May 20, 1983 property deed for the Jamaica Queens resident lists Robert James and Letitia James, his daughter. There's one of those darn innocent mistakes again. If Lowell making another innocent mistake when he claimed, oh, I'm sorry, is Law making another innocent mistake when he claims Robert bought the building, quote, without his daughter's involvement? Letitia did sign the paperwork. That's what I was thinking myself. Like, how can he do it without her involvement when she signed the paperwork? Letitia did sign the paperwork alongside him on the same page that listed them as spouses. Maybe I'm in the minority, but when I sign paperwork for something as significant as expensive as real estate, I read it over to make sure it's accurate. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you hire a lawyer to look it over as well. You pay money for a lawyer to look it up to make sure that it isn't any mistakes like that. Law says the deed lists Tish as Robert's daughter, but so what? The mortgage is the concerning item here. Did the pair receive a lower rate as husband and wife than they would have as father and daughter? At that very, very least, James's web of questionable representations and statements must be thoroughly investigated, and not just by the feds. If only there were unbiased, trustworthy, and professional DAs in the blue cities and states where James leveraged her real estate empire side. A girl can only dream. That was from the author. This is a female. Says, sorry, Tish. The courtesy of claiming it was all just innocent mistakes and oversight is not a thing to which you are entitled. You should have thought about that before you started your crusade against a past and future president. Even after your biased, weaponized, malicious persecution, you might still have been able to take a bye for one mistake. But this many, yeah, no. Enjoy your probe. We all Americans certainly will. Absolutely. I agree. I mean, we all know what's going on. And we know she's lying. She made this. She didn't make these weren't mistakes. These were purposely made to make a favorable outcome. You know, the same thing that she claimed Trump was doing. Everything. How many times we see this where Democrats blame Republicans for something that they're actually doing? They project their own issues. They project their own criminality onto Republicans, and this is a major example of that here. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest news. Until next time, peace.